Is that moment when you walk into a cell with a stranger and there's a bucket of basically crap in the corner? Is that even a moment where you go, oh no, what have I done?
So I once had a devil worshipper who I didn't particularly get on with, and I had to reject him from the cell.
You can generally tell the first time has gone, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be fair, I
You can
think
tell them a mile off, can't you?
People who I knew would buy stuff from you.
Yeah.
You know, they would celebrate you and they would actually help you to avoid capture from the police.
I actually felt more unsafe in an A&E department, you know, on a night shift at 3 a.m.
I've never seen anyone on space have a good trip.
But he went, yeah, it is the zombie drug, and he lifted his arm and he'd eaten his own arm to the bone.
So today I'm kind of interested in just sort of what we're trying to find out really is that sort of first 24 hours. What happens to somebody, you know, they get sentenced, they get remanded, whatever it might be. Really interested in that sort of, because I very much think, you know, that it's the fear of the unknown that kind of sets people off. And I think you must see that sort of in your professions and also as a customer, shall we say, that people's attitudes are very much informed by what they've been informed by. So if somebody arrives scared and fearful of the unknown, then obviously they're going to be a bit more difficult to deal with. Would you say that was?
Yeah, definitely.
That was accurate?
Yeah.
You can generally tell the first time has gone, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be fair, I
You can
think
tell them a mile off, can't you?
You get sent from the court, you come into prison, you're in the sweatbox, and then the reception process starts.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a lot of lads didn't expect a sentence, so that keeps the pressure on.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know about you, but I always found the reception process quite dehumanising.
I think as well they get asked the same questions quite a lot from all the different services they see down there. So it can be any thoughts of self-harm, but they'll have been asked that about 4 different times by 4 different people.
Yeah.
So I think it can be.
I wasn't thinking of it originally, but now I am.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely
exactly, yeah.
First of all, I just want to have a little sort of a delve back and find out what went on, how it all sort of started for you. So how old would you say you were when you first had your first brush with the law?
8 years of age.
Yeah.
Just hanging with older people, you know, older guys and trying to kind of fit in.
Yeah.
And I got caught stealing a bag full of copper.
Right.
So that was the first brush. And then it went from there, really.
So what were you going to do with the copper then?
Well, I'm not quite sure, you know. It was hardly the Great Train Robbery, but I'd probably wait in at the local scrapyard and you know, get a couple of quid.
Well, I'm going to assume then that the first time you went inside you were on remand, is that right? Or would you have been sentenced? Or
yeah, I was. I got remanded when I was 15. I was involved in a fight with some other people and stuff, and it was turned really serious, and I stabbed somebody 9 times.
Wow!
In that fight.
Yeah.
So obviously I was remanded into custody for that for Section 18.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So where were you? Where were you then?
At Lone Newton Remand Centre, which is now, which was a young person's remand centre.
Yeah.
And that now is a female remand centre just outside of Durham City.
Got you.
So yeah.
So talk us through it then. So do you go in front of a judge before you get remanded?
Well, obviously we were on the run. You know, Durham's most wanted for a while. We were on the run for a good few months, and obviously still breaking the law to stay at large. And then we were caught, taken to the police station, and then brought up to the magistrate's court and remanded into custody. So yeah.
So tell us how that feels then. I mean, obviously you were 15 and full of yourself, so you know you might have a very different opinion of it now than you did then. But at that moment when the judge says, "I'm remanding you," you're not getting bail. I'm remanding you in custody. What goes through your head?
Well, it was a number of things. I'm reminded of what William Blake said when he said, "The fox condemns the trap and not himself." You know, I felt, you know, aggrieved actually that someone would send me to prison,
right?
Despite the fact that I'd, you know, done this awful thing to someone. And then because there was a group of us, there was this kind of false kind of camaraderie and a bit of a badge of honour.
Yeah.
But really underneath that, you're going into the unknown. So there's an anxiety and a fear.
Yeah.
And a projection of, you know, trying to be tough about it all and, you know, no one's going to mess with me. And all of these things that you think when you're 15 at the time, you know, going into custody.
Yeah. I mean, I find it hard to get my head around that though at the age of 15 years old, you know, because I mean, most of us were up to no good of some description at the age of 15 years old. But I mean, that's pretty serious bother that you got yourself into there. Yeah,
well, I was involved with some older guys. We were running around with guns and all sorts of, you know, crazy stuff at the time. And I think you're in that little bubble in that culture. So that was the conversation, breaking the law. That was that was the rules. That was your ethics. That was where your moral compass was. So going to prison seemed a kind of natural progression.
Yeah.
A bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, I think.
Yeah. Kind of like a hazard of the job.
Yeah, this is, occupational hazard, exactly right.
Today's episode is brought to you in association with Practice Plus Group, providing quality healthcare in secure settings.
So you get remanded. Where do you go next? Do you go into a holding cell, did you? Or
we went back down in the cells and stuff, and obviously we're causing mayhem and ripping the toilets out and smashing the cells up and all,
right.
And inviting the police for a fight and all these things because, I felt aggrieved. That's how I thought. And then obviously placed in restraints and handcuffs and stuff and put in the back of a van and taken to Low Newton.
What happens then? Do you sit in the van for a while or did you go straight in?
Well, we went in one at a time into reception and stuff, and obviously we were met with the kind of, we were, you put really quickly within your place say, you are here, we are the boss, this is what's happening, and if you step out of line, this is what's going to happen. And, trying to get on top of you mentally and psychologically break you down within reception, that's how it certainly felt at the time, strip searched and all the rest of it, So
what happens after that then? Did you, so when was this? What year would this be?
This was,
without giving your age away,
Yeah, that's fine. It was 1990. It was October of 1990.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful summer of love with LSD and some wonderful universal realizations, and then it ended in Low Newton.
Yeah. So how had you saw the year planning out really before that? I mean,
it was a bit of it was kind of, I was involved in ram raiding and stuff, so we kind of saw ourselves as, in the romance of it all, as some kind of, outlaw bandit guys who, robbed for a good time, and, it was an endless party, but then obviously the hangover was a custodial sentence.
Yeah, because of course, I mean, I can remember, Rosie, I'm assuming you're not old enough to remember the glorious days of ram raiding, but it was like a sort of a Robin Hood thing, wasn't it? That seemed to be the...
Well, I often say, Chris, that I felt like I was Robin Hood, but in fact I was robbing everyone, and that's exactly what it was like, so, but we did have and it was celebrated in some part. I mean, the community was a hard-working community and a really lovely community where people looked out for each other. I think after the miners' strike, that did fracture. But people who I knew would buy stuff from you.
Yeah.
They would celebrate you and they would actually help you to avoid capture from the police.
Yeah.
So not everyone in the community, certainly not, because they're good, upstanding people, but some people would say good on you.
So you get to reception. Did you see a nurse? Did you get a chance to have a sort of a health assessment?
Yeah, it was a nurse at the time, and obviously really brief kind of questions. Mm-hmm. Are you okay? Are you suicidal? Do you need a paracetamol? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Really, because it's just a conveyor belt, really, isn't it? Well, it certainly was then.
Yeah.
And then obviously through reception, given what at the time you had to wear prison issue clothes, which were brown if you were unconvicted and blue if you were convicted.
So is that for the prison officers to identify who was convicted and who wasn't, or was it?
You'd know who they were.
You would know who they were anyway.
Yeah. So if you'd went not guilty, obviously you were still, until you were found guilty or not, you were unconvicted, but you were remanded into custody.
So Rosie, is it like that now? Are they dressed differently, convicted or not?
That's quite interesting actually, because I didn't know that. No, people can wear their own clothes. If they don't have their own clothes, they go into grey, just like a grey tracksuit that you see on TV.
That's your standard dress, but they can wear their own clothes, as in what? Levi's and trainers, or they can come in their own grey tracksuit?
I think there's rules, and you can't wear certain brands and things like that, or you can't wear trainers with laces in and things like that.
Yeah, for safety reasons, I would imagine. Yeah.
The only difference, I think, is if a prisoner was an escape risk, you get put in a
patches.
Yeah, it's so like a brightly coloured.
It's yellow and green. And it's just like.
So you'd be seen going over the wall. Literally, is it like high vis vest for the escapee?
I feel a bit sorry for people really when they get to wear that, because it's so visible. Everybody knows that you are an escape risk kind of thing.
It is as well. They wear them, don't
they? Do they? I don't know that.
I suppose then, in that case, that may be a badge of honour for some people.
It is.
Yeah.
So you've been through reception. How long after you arrive do you actually get put in the cell that you're going to be staying in?
It all depends how many new arrivals has come and how busy it is, and then people are kind of, you're given a cell and you'd go to a cell, and at the time you went in the cell, there was no toilets or anything. Mm-hmm. It was just a bucket in the corner and with a guy who you'd never met on a bunk bed. And that was what it was like going in the cell. And Yeah. So.
And at any point, like in this process, still, I know you're still, you're 15, you're still full of yourself. Is that moment when you walk into a cell with a stranger and there's a bucket of basically crap in the corner? Is that even a moment where you go, oh no, what have I done?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of those moments, isn't there? But again, I think having that mentality at the time and being on remand and pretty much knowing deep down that you've finished and that you're going to get a guilty, you do hope against all hope that a miracle's going to occur and that you'll be back in the community as quickly as possible. And again, being back in the community only meant being back involved in that life and robbing more and stuff like that. That's where the aspirations were. That's what they were.
Yeah. So you walk in the cell. Can you remember who? I mean, without naming names, unless of course you have great friends and they wouldn't mind. Can you remember who it was and what they were like?
There was a guy from Sunderland called Joe Connelly who won't mind us mentioning his name, I'm sure. And he was all right. He was just a young guy himself, a young up-and-coming fighter from Sunderland at the time. And we got on really well, and I got on well with most of my pad mates. I once had a devil worshipper who I didn't particularly get on with, and I had to reject him from the cell.
That'd be quite difficult to sort of negotiate a way around.
He was drawing pentagrams on the floor with a talc, so I had to throw his stuff onto the land and get rid of him. So that's the only one I ever got on with, really.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you could come in for poll tax, or you could come in for murder. Driving whilst banned, and you could be in with a murderer.
Got you.
I've been in with a lot of people who had really terrible mental health issues. And obviously it's a long night and it's a long week and a long month. Sometimes you don't want to... And fights in cells as well, obviously, lots of fights.
Right.
Over the years. Yeah.
So, all right, Rosie, so tell us what you do.
So I've just recently, last year, done my prescribing, so I'm now doing the reception process when patients come in and they're needing their any medication really, but we're looking mainly at if they're withdrawing and starting on their methadone and substitutions for opiates. Or alcohol. Alcohol's really big at the moment, so we're making sure that everyone's safe and sorted because it's a dangerous very dangerous alcohol, isn't it? And we also do the reception process, so where we ask basic past history really.
So you're talking about questions including, have you ever taken a cellmate hostage? Surely, Tom, you can put their name on a computer and it'll say, he's well known for taking cellmates hostage.
I would expect that to be on the markers.
Yeah. But you got to ask anyway, just to cover yourself from a legal basis.
It's something you can miss when you're really, really busy.
I've got you.
I think the reception part, it's just get them through the first night. Keep them safe for the first night. Once they get onto the first night centre, it's a little bit more thorough, and that's when you sort out the wheat from the chaff.
All right. They present in front of you. What's the first question you ask?
It's a weird one, but have you ever been homeless? Is one of the first questions we ask in the past year. We also ask if they're remanded, sentenced, or how long they're going to be with us, because that can have an impact on what care they're going to be able to get while they're with us.
So is that if somebody has been homeless, does that have like ramifications for what health problems they may now have? Is that what that question is about?
Yeah, it could be. Also, so we can support people on release, so it triggers something on our system, so that hopefully we can start out helping people.
Yeah, so they don't just go out and offend again in order to get a roof over their head.
Yeah, ideally that's how it should be. I know that we do sometimes release people homeless, which is not good at all. How often do you
feel vulnerable? How often do you not feel safe in there?
Not often really. I actually felt more unsafe in an A&E department, on a night shift at 3 a.m.
I think most times I've seen nurses get grief is when they won't give them a medication they think they're entitled to.
100%. And a lot of the time, if we haven't got confirmation that someone's on a certain medication, especially one that's like an addictive medication, a controlled drug or whatever, and we can't confirm they're on it, it would be so unsafe for us to just pop someone on that medication.
Normally the medication that's popular within the prison, it's not issued in possession. It's normally issued daily. And they're supposed to go to a hatch, take the medication, then you're supposed to check the mouth, lift the tongue. Doesn't always happen. And that's how it's like the methadone. Like methadone's a liquid, and it's normally for heroin. It's a heroin substitute. They'll not swallow it and then spit it back into a cup and sell it. It's big currency, like.
We We have a lot of people on they'll be on Espinol when they go out. They're
What
in
is
the community.
Espinol?
So that it's like methadone, but it's got a blocker in it as well. So if someone did take heroin, they wouldn't necessarily feel the effects.
Oh, I've got you, yeah.
Heroin.
Oh, that's
And
interesting. I've
it's
never heard of that
really
before.
good drug, and it's really, in the community, it works really well for addiction, but in the prison it's a massive currency, and it's so hard to manage people not diverting it. It's so we don't necessarily keep people on that medication.
Got you, yeah.
But again, it's balancing it, because if it's helped somebody and essentially saved their life, but it also poses so many risks as well in the prison. So it's just finding that balance and making it fair as well.
So tickling the conversation towards a slightly more positive outlook for somebody who's just arrived in prison. If somebody genuinely wants to get clean, genuinely wants to use their time wisely within the system, what services are available for them, Rosie?
So I think it's the best place to get clean in some ways,
Right.
to be honest, that you're not in the out, that you're not around the people that you use with. So there is so much support if you want to get clean. We have a drugs and alcohol service that are really, I'm sure you guys, the DARS team, they're so good. They'll go and review patients.
What's the acronym stand for? Drug?
Alcohol.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. I've got you. Yeah. Something like that. Let's not make it up if we don't know. So they're going to say the darts team, but that's not.
Yeah. So at the minute we're doing some work on putting people on the Buvidal injection, which is really really good. It's an injection that lasts a month. So instead of having to go to the pharmacy to get your methadone or your Espinol, it just slowly releases in your system.
Yeah. Over a month?
Yeah, over a month.
I mean, I don't want to drop you right in it, but can you describe to me how that actually works?
It just slowly releases into your system. So it's just slowly releasing, same as if you took a tablet on one day, and it lasts all through the 24 hours. It just lasts for a month.
I've seen people who are using that, who've been long time users, I've worked with for years, and it's a revelation. It really does work really well.
So I suppose that removes the risk of it becoming a currency as well, if it's a once a month injection.
Yeah, it does, and it's also has the blocking agent in as well. So if people are using it, doesn't work for everything, but opiates, they won't get that high from taking an opiate.
So it does have the blocker. It does have that blocker. Oh, that's interesting.
It does.
Because I was going to ask that.
Yeah, and it's just one of those drugs that people are actually finding, like you say, have been using for years.
Yeah.
They finally get something, and we're actually doing it in prison. Is really positive, I think. I think it's something that'll work really well.
Tom, if drugs completely disappeared from prison, what impact would that have on your job?
Firstly, it'll never happen.
Yeah.
As hard as we try, we do try.
Yeah.
I just think they'd find something else, like hooch. They'd just find something else to kill that time.
Yeah.
I think it is a time thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think the drug
spice using time, it takes up
kind of
time.
Leave prison for a short while. They'd just find something else, I think.
Yeah.
Probably hooch.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been hooch.
No, I don't want to ask that question. I was going to ask you, how does somebody brew? But I'm not going to ask that question because I don't want to give a list of instructions to somebody.
It's really easy.
But it's happening all over.
It's really easy.
Well, I'll beep that out.
Smells bad.
I'll beep that out. We won't hear that because we don't give anybody the recipe.
Cements in plastic bags.
Yeah. Stop it. Just keep going. He won't stop, will he?
It smells horrible.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't drink it.
So I'll ask each of you to tell me why you shouldn't take spice.
It can be mixed with absolutely anything. They put rat poison, all sorts in it. They're putting fentanyl, I think, in it at the minute. It's just linked with deaths. It's linked with bad mental health. It's just the worst thing you could take, basically.
For me, I mean, seeing the damage that it does, and I've seen people eat their own arms.
What?
I was running a group, and I once said to a guy, it's a zombie drug because of the catatonic state that you're in. And I mean, you can die on any substance, can't you?
Absolutely. But
he went, it is the zombie drug, and he lifted his arm and he'd eaten his own arm to the bone on it. I spoke to 3 other people on that day who died in the showers. I think you had to resuscitate them actually as an officer.
Wow. So you spoke to 3 people who had died and been brought back to life as a result of spice.
One guy was tricked into using it. He was in for his driving offences. Yeah. He died. One guy was a long-term user who couldn't wait to use it again. I mean, I was just flabbergasted at that because he died. And the other guy just flirted with it a little bit, and he died also.
Gosh.
And I will say this, one guy cut his own penis off on it, and another guy was on camera. Tom took him to the block, and and he was eating his own
excrement.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
and not being aware of it afterwards.
Yeah, they don't know.
It causes mayhem for me.
Yeah.
It's the biggest pain.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. You don't. I mean, the drugs in prison anyway. 9 times out of 10, they've been stamped on that many times. So you're getting rubbish anyway.
Yeah.
With spice, you just don't know what you're getting. And we've had to revive lads, and lads have died.
This notion of on a daily basis, is this something you deal with on a daily basis?
I think I've told you the story. I was Oscar 1 kind of runs the daily run of the prison. I was Oscar 1 this day. And
so what's Oscar 1? What does that mean, just for people who don't know?
He kind of runs the daily operations, like making sure the workshops, the staff are where they should be, the prisoners.
So Oscar 1 is kind of like the the site foreman in
everything
prison.
Comes through him.
Yeah, got you.
Any incidents you've got to deal with.
Yeah.
And spice was relatively new, and it was, I think I counted 12 on one shift, lads going over.
Yeah. Wow, 12 people.
My head was coming off like.
Goodness,
just going over
and then it's ambulances to the prisons and
then there's ambulances, and then staff have to go with them. So it just causes absolute mayhem. And like I say, I've seen lad died. We've had to resuscitate them.
Yeah,
I've never seen anyone on spice have a good trip. And I say to the lads, like, I've never ever, in all the incidents I've seen, like they're frothing at the mouth, they're having fits, they're having shaking, and they're just.
So what's there must be something, right? So is it simply just not being themselves for a few hours? Is that what it is? Because it doesn't sound like, it's not like, so like the 90s, it's not like going to a rave and having a couple of happy pills and jumping around in the strobe for half an hour.
There doesn't look to be anything fun about it, looking at it, so, and I think it is taking yourself out of the situation, no matter what the consequence would be. But also it's addictive as well. Right. It's highly addictive, so I think...
And it's a synthetic drug, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm going to ask each of us as an individual, what would your advice be to somebody to help get them through that first 24 hours, 2 days, maybe the first week inside? What advice would you give them, Tom?
Stay away from prison politics and stay off the drugs.
Gary?
Don't be afraid to reach out for help and ask for it. It's a very lonely place, or it can be. You don't have to be alone. Reach out and try and get some help, because whether that be from your peers or from the professionals working within the prison, and that it's not such a hopeless situation. The sun will rise and it'll set, and tomorrow's a new day.
Rosie?
Yeah, basically what you guys said, but definitely stay away from the drugs, spice, smoking other people's vapes, and
smoking other people's vapes.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us about that.
Currency.
Yeah, so vapes are a big currency, aren't they, in prison? Yeah. There's a lot of arguments, a lot of even self-harm and things about over vapes.
Wow.
So definitely just make sure you stick to your own. There's spice in other people's vapes. Yeah, that's you've put it well. Yeah.
Borrow nothing and lend nothing. Yeah. That's very good advice. And I've got one more quick question. How long after you've been remanded or sentenced will it be before somebody gets to see a family member as a visit? What would you? I mean, I know it might vary depending on the case, but I mean, what sort of time? That week.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
You get a reception visit almost immediately.
All right, and so what would that be? Sort of.
It's online now. It never used to be.
Yeah.
Before, in the olden days, you used to send out the VO.
Yeah.
Now you can actually do it online.
Yeah.
So your family can book it.
Yeah.
The same day you're locked up.
All right, that's brilliant.
You might not get it depending on how many are in the visits or, but immediately.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good news to know. So we're ending on a little positive there, but I think we've had a really good conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.